Imagine this. World War II is finally over. The guns have fallen silent. You survived, but you step outside, and the world you knew is gone. Cities are rubble, families are torn apart, and the money in your pocket, it's practically worthless. Today we're diving into the shocking story of post-war Germany, where a currency crash turned society upside down and cigarettes became more valuable than cash. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a jaw-dropping look at what happens when money dies. Let's rewind to 1945. Germany is in ruins, not just physically, but economically. The official currency, the Reichsmark, was still in circulation, but it had a massive problem. During the war, the Nazi regime had printed money like there was no tomorrow to fund their war machine. With the war lost and the economy shattered, all that extra cash was chasing very few goods. The result? Hyperinflation. Prices skyrocketed, but not in the way you might think. Officially, prices were frozen by the Allied occupying forces, but that just created a massive black market. On the official market, a loaf of bread might cost 1 Reichsmark, but good luck finding one. Store shelves were completely empty. Why would a farmer sell his potatoes for worthless paper money? Instead, everything went underground. This was the era of the Zigarettenrung, the cigarette currency. American cigarettes, brought in by soldiers, became the real money. A single cigarette could buy you a small meal, a carton that was serious wealth. People would trade priceless family heirlooms, their wedding rings, their grandfather's watch, all for a few packs of smokes. This wasn't just about luxury, it was about survival. Think about the absurdity. You could have a bank account filled with millions of Reichsmarks, but you'd still be starving. Your life savings, everything you'd worked for, couldn't even buy you a piece of bread. Meanwhile, someone with a few cartons of Lucky Strikes was living like a king. People would spend hours every day on what they called hamstering, traveling to the countryside to trade whatever they had directly with farmers for food. A pair of shoes for a bag of potatoes. A nice coat for some eggs and butter. This was the reality for millions of Germans. The entire economy became a massive, inefficient barter system. The Allied powers, America, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, knew this situation was unsustainable. A functioning country needs a functioning currency, but they couldn't agree on what to do. The Soviets, controlling East Germany, had their own ideas, while the Western Allies had theirs. This disagreement over economic policy was one of the first major cracks that would eventually lead to the Cold War and the division of Germany itself. The breaking point came on a Sunday, June 20, 1948. In the 3 Western occupied zones, something incredible happened overnight. The Western Allies, led by the Americans and a brilliant German economist named Ludwig Erhard, secretly planned a radical currency reform. They announced that the old worthless Reichsmark was being replaced by a new currency, the Deutsche Mark. Here's how it worked, and it was brutal. Every single person was allowed to exchange only 40 old Reichsmarks for 40 new Deutschmarks. That was it, a one-to-one exchange, but only for a tiny amount. A couple of months later, they could exchange another 20. All other savings, company assets, and government debts were converted at a disastrous rate, sometimes as low as 100 Reichsmarks to just 6.5 Deutschmarks. In an instant, 93.5% of all savings were wiped out. Imagine your entire bank account shrinking to less than a tenth of its value overnight. It was a massive, painful reset button on the entire economy. The next day, Monday, June 21, 1948, was like a miracle. People woke up, and for the first time in years, shop windows were full. Absolutely packed with goods, bread, meat, shoes, clothes, everything you could find for love or money the day before was suddenly there for sale. Why? Because now there was a currency that sellers actually wanted. The new Deutsche Mark was stable and trusted. The black market vanished almost overnight. The cigarette currency evaporated. This radical reform, combined with the lifting of price controls, unleashed what became known as the Wirtschaftswunder, or the German economic miracle. With a stable currency and the freedom to set prices, the German economy exploded with growth. Factories were rebuilt, jobs were created, and within a decade, West Germany went from a landscape of rubble and starvation to one of the world's most prosperous nations. It was one of the most dramatic economic turnarounds in history. But let's not forget the human cost. While the currency reform was a success for the country as a whole, it was devastating for many individuals. People who had been frugal and saved their money their whole lives were wiped out. They were the losers of the reform. In contrast, people who owned physical assets, property, factories, shares and companies were the big winners. Their assets were now valued in the strong new currency. This created a huge shift in wealth and left a deep psychological scar on a generation of Germans, instilling a deep-seated fear of inflation that persists to this day. Meanwhile, in the Soviet-occupied zone, the story was very different. The Soviets responded by introducing their own currency, the East German mark, further cementing the economic and political division of the country. This set the stage for 2 very different Germanys, a capitalist, booming West Germany, and a communist, struggling East Germany. The wall that would later divide Berlin was built on the foundations of this currency crisis. So, what can we learn from this incredible story? It shows us that money is ultimately a social contract, an agreement based on trust. When that trust collapses, society itself can break down. But it also shows the incredible resilience of people and the power of sound economic policy to rebuild from even the most complete devastation. The story of the Deutsche Mark is a powerful reminder that the numbers in our bank accounts are only as valuable as the system they represent. It's a dramatic lesson from history that feels more relevant than ever today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think. Could something like this ever happen again? See you in the next one.